false information to the Pfizer judge. We gave the Pfizer judge false information when we went after Kelly, Mad Dog. So she knows all this. She knows so many things that she can't speak about, but she knows about Anthony Weiner's file on his computer that said insurance, about Hillary Clinton and more. And she's there talking. So when you look at it, you've got to realise how big this is, this moment. And she, actually before she speaks, Jenna comes in. Jenna, what's her name again? Ellis. And she is Donald Trump's senior advisor. Very clever woman. I actually like to see clever women. You know, I go on about women, but that's about families. And I like to see clever women like this. I love it. Because there she is, pretty lady, pretty young lady, and she fucking destroys the mainstream media. And what her job was, because this was choreographed, her job was to totally and utterly rip into the press. See, she wasn't about what the fraud of the election. She was about the betrayal of the mainstream media to the American people and the lies and the censorship. And she calls it for what it is, censorship. And she fucking rips into the mainstream media. But they can't reply because it's not question time yet. And she fucking destroys them. And she tells them what their headlines will be tomorrow. Their headlines will not match the truth, the evidence that they are presenting. Because they can't. Because this is a war. This is a war on the American people. When you listen to what he said in this historical moment, it's not, I could use the word unbelievable, but it is believable. Because I've told you time and time again, never underestimate evil. Never. Never ever say, oh, they couldn't do that. Fucking hell, no. No way could they do that. No, they couldn't get away with that. Well, evil is evil. You know, people underestimate evil. And she basically tells the mainstream media, I know what your headlines are going to be, but it doesn't matter because we've got the evidence and it's going to happen. And this is what I'm saying about the Republicans who are now going about changing things and challenging the election. And these other little things, like I told you, I spotted things even before I watched this. The whisper has gone round that this election is going to change. Biden's not getting it. The whisper has gone around. So people are having to very quietly and quickly change their stance. Republicans are going to start to have to back Trump. Because a lot of these congressmen and senators, they're going to be, they've stood now, but in 2 years' time, there'll be an election for half of them. And Trump will be able to wave the magic wand and sprinkle the fairy dust, the magic dust, on the people he wants in power. Because people don't just automatically stand. Somebody can challenge each of these congresspeople and senators in a primary. So Trump could back a Republican to stand against somebody who's already in power. And these people have started to realise that Trump is now the master of their future. So they've got to back him. And Jenna is warning the press. When I say she's warning the press, she's basically telling them, and she tells them in a way, that they now have to make a choice. Just like these Republican senators and Congress have had to make a choice, and they've made it. They're starting to make their choice. The whisper has gone round Washington DC that they've got the evidence, and it's going to happen. That the presidency is going to be overturned, the election. So you've got Giuliani, you've got Jenna, then you've got Sidney Powell. It's 90 minutes, it's an hour and a half. Go watch it. It is absolutely brilliant. I watched all of it live, and I really, the word enjoy doesn't come into it. I watched a historical moment, and it goes in my little calendars of life. It goes in one of my moments of life, like sitting at Newark Airport and watching Newt Gingrich do his 100-day speech live. Not even many Americans will know what I'm on about with that. But it was a historical moment. It never all happened, but it was a historical moment, and it was, to watch it was a moment. So when Labour did it with Tony Blair, I just smiled. I just laughed. Because I'd seen it with Newt Gingrich, and it never came out the way it was going to happen, but it ran out of steam. Anyway, so go watch that. Now, what happened? I told you the whisper has gone around Washington DC, and that whisper is not just amongst Republicans, it's amongst the Democrats. And what's happening now is Democrats are having to choose sides. Do they go for the truth and then a future Democrat party that is reformed with new leaders? Because some people are going to jail. So young Democrats, you say, even middle-aged ones, whatever, they are having to decide, do they stay? When I say stay, do they defend wicked, evil system within the Democratic Party, or do they step back like John Major did with Margaret Thatcher? When Margaret Thatcher, on the day she resigned, she phoned up everybody saying, will you back me in Parliament today? When I go to Parliament today, will you be there to back me? Well, John Major, he never answered the phone. And I think he got his wife to say, but what he did was, he made the excuse, I've got to go to the dentist today to have my wisdom tooth took out. So he disappeared. Well, you're going to see a lot of Democrats disappearing. They're not going to be there to back Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. They're going to quietly disappear. They're going to have an appointment for a wisdom tooth. Or they're going to have to self-isolate because they think they've been in contact with somebody. So they're going to have to self-isolate. Remember how Hancock did? At the beginning of our crisis, Matt Hancock, when it came to all the decision making and the revealing of the stupid decisions he'd made in such a short time, all that, 8 months ago, he got isolated and he had to go home for 2 weeks. Well, that's what's going to happen to a lot of Democrats. So the whisper has gone around the Democrats, so what does Joe Biden do? Well, I saw an headline, but I can't find it now. He's only announced, it's been whispered for days and days because they knew this point was coming, so they thought, right, what can we do? What can we do to combat Trump? We've got to fight back, we've got to fight back. We've got to get that presidency or we're all going to fucking prison. Not just for fraud, election fraud, but lots of things. Joe Biden, he's got all this China and Ukraine gate and his son smoking crack and pictures of him with young girls. Joe Biden's got all that. So Joe Biden's like that, even though he's got dementia, he's not that far fucking gone. And his wife as well. And Chuck Schumer and Pelosi and all of them, and fucking the Clintons. Remember the Clintons? Anthony Weiner's file, his laptop, insurance. He didn't fucking title that file insurance for nothing. That evidence was keeping him alive. So, but it didn't help them fucking New York detectives who are all dead. Anyway, so what does Joe Biden do? He's been talking about it for days because they've been planning this. And I saw the headline, but I can't find anything now. But he's only announced that he's going to cancel all student debt. Oh, student debt. So that's a bribe to people with student debt, which can be poor people who've managed to climb a rung, but they've got a load of student debt. And then you've got your middle class people, their children. And then you've got your middle class people who've still got student debt and they left university 10, 12, 13 years ago, but they've still got student debt. So it's a bribe to those people. Ignore Trump. I'm going to cancel all your student debt. Well, I did a video ages ago on my now suspended channel where I said you can't, it sounds good, but you can't cancel debt. What if you'd have cancelled debt when I was homeless in the park, 61 years old, living in the park, with fuck all, and then you cancel the debt of somebody who's got £500,000 house? You cancel the debt of a business that's took on loads of debt and then paid themselves a load of money, but they bankrupted the firm. You cancel their debt. You cancel debt right across the planet. But I'm still living in the fucking park. Now I represent the poor in that situation. You can't cancel debt. So Joe Biden's bribe is a load of bollocks, but people are going to fall for it because he's only saying he's going to do it. It doesn't mean he's going to do it. But here's something else that happened. As Giuliani's like big expose of the election started, I can't get the timing right because I can't work out the timing. But Mayor de Blasio, New York mayor, he gave a live speech. Fucking hell. I watched that as well. Didn't watch all of it because I felt fucking sick watching it. But I chipped to bits and it was unbelievable. So when you watch this, you can listen to him for a bit and then just keep cutting, going bang, 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 going forward a little bit, stop, forward a little bit, stop. And he gets all these people. Anyway, Mayor de Blasio, the New York mayor, see, because this is part of it, they've got to take the light off Giuliani, Sidney Powell and General Ellis. They've got to take people's attention away from this. So Mayor de Blasio gives his speech. Biden's done his bit. We're going to cancel student debt. Isn't that fantastic for America? Well, de Blasio gives this fucking live speech, and I've watched it, like I say. And in this speech, he talks about going forward in this COVID crisis and what the Biden presidency, because he's talking as though Biden's the president, but he's fucking not. He's going backwards. He's going backwards. Take my words for it. When you watch Giuliani and that, you'll see it. So he's talking about how America's going to move forward under President Biden and the new Democratic fucking administration and all the plans he's got. And he starts talking about housing, how black Americans are going to benefit from brand new housing that's going to be built for them. So you've got student people, which are come in all colours. They're going to get all their student debt written off. If Biden continues as the president. Well, we've now got de Blasio saying, we are going to build houses for black Americans. And we're going to work with non-profit organisations and this and that. And he's telling you all these fucking plans. Which means a whole chunk of money going into it. But the government's not going to do it. They're going to hand the money to banks and organisations, NGOs, non-governmental organisations. And they're going to give the money to them and then they're going to do these schemes supposedly. Well, it's all going to get stolen, the money, because that's what the Democrats do. Republicans as well. But the money will get stolen. It's all fucking bollocks, just like Biden's writing off student debt. What de Blasio is saying is bollocks. And any person, any white person who starts screaming, oh, look at the black Americans getting that, you're an idiot. Because it ain't happening. You're a fucking idiot if you get sucked into it. Because they want you to do that. They want white people to go, there. They want you to use up inches in the newspaper, column inches, where you're shouting and screaming. They want you making videos on YouTube where you're fucking protesting about it. You say, why should black people get that? And then the name calling starts and the racism starts, or blah, blah, blah. And then the light is taken away from what's going on with the election. They want you to do that. And then he also starts going on about how they're going to pump money into businesses for black Americans. See, it's all about black Americans. And I'm not having a go because I know it's bollocks. Just like the student debt is bollocks, and student debt comes in all colours. But what they're trying to do is they're trying to create this race argument, and he's going on about how black Americans have had nothing, and it's this shitty, America is this totally shit country for black Americans. So they're trying to create this narrative, you see. But then there's all these other things. Somebody comes in and starts going on about Thanksgiving, about how, he starts going on about how, because of COVID, you see, he's making a big issue of COVID as well, you see. They're trying to take your eye off the ball. And then he's talking about Thanksgiving, and you get a couple of people where it's like, yeah, for Thanksgiving, you know, to save America, it'll just be me, my husband, and my kids. And we'd love to have other people, but we're not, because we're thinking safe. Think safe. Think save America. We have to save America. Don't have Thanksgiving like you normally do it. Let's all come together. Come together. And you have a couple of people doing that, and then there's a couple of other things. And it's fucking wild. And it's like, and I'm laughing to myself. That is desperation like Biden, you see. The whisper has gone round Washington DC, the fucks. A lot of people going to prison. A lot of people are fucked with a capital F, right through, all capital S's, with a D, capital D, and a couple of fucking hyphen marks. Now here's an interesting thing. Giulliani in his speech kept going on about George Soros because he went onto the Dominion voting machines. Now I'm going to do a separate video about this. I'm not going to complicate it, but they gave evidence about the Dominion voting machines. They're owned by a Venezuelan. It's a company that's owned by 2 Venezuelans. And he gave this information about these Dominion voting machines. Lots and lots of information. Were used in the German election. So if they've got proof that there's fraud in this, so what's to say there's not fraud in the German election? And all these other countries, Argentina and that. And you have to go and listen to it, to this evidence. And he talks about George Soros. And he goes on and on about George Soros. Now because this is live, if you listen to it live, it can't be switched off. Now when it's reported on the news, Fox, CNN, MBT, whatever, all of them, they have to make the choice. Well, when they were doing it live, because a lot of TV companies were doing it live, and quite a few weren't from what I've noticed, because they don't want it live, because they want to snip it, they want to chop it up and show sections that will suit their narrative of lies and what's the fucking word now? Anyway, they want to snip it up and break it up. But if you watch it live, he talks about George Soros in depth to the mainstream media, and he tells them facts about George Soros, how he's the guy who is part of the Dominion software, English guy, is one of George Soros's main people. George Soros funds money, we're talking hundreds of millions into this Dominion voting machine and the software and lots of other things around it. George Soros, George Soros, George Soros. And he tells you other things about George Soros. George Soros is now being named, you see, openly. This is how far it's gone. Now it's only 3 weeks ago that Newt Gingrich was on Fox Live, and he mentioned George Soros, and all of a sudden it was as though it was a black lady interviewer. It was as though she went into a trance, and she was listening in her ear, and she stopped. And Newt Gingrich, it's as though he's talking to himself, and he's like looking, going, "What the fuck, you know? I'm talking, but I'm not getting any response." And all of a sudden she went, "No, I'm very sorry, Mr. Gingrich, but no, we can't introduce Soros into this because this conversation is not about that, and also there's no evidence and it's wrong." And it was the censorship coming into play again. And she wouldn't allow any mention of George Soros. Newt Gingrich is like that. Now you've got to remember, Newt Gingrich is the ambassador to France. He lives in Paris. He's like the ambassador to France because they found him a wealthy wife, you see. And then he's part of that now. He's rewarded with this like thing. Trump rewarded him, you know. That's why he speaks up for Trump, because he was given this great job of ambassador to Paris, France. So he's like that. So what, we can't mention George Soros? He said, have we got to that now where we can't? And she got, no, listen, Newt, we can't do it. You know, there's no evidence, and we're not here to talk about that. And blah, blah, blah. But it was relevant to what he was talking about. Giuliani fucking goes on about now. It's live. Mainstream media are there, and he's given them evidence that Soros is part of this stealing of the election. Hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars have gone into the stealing of this election in many, many ways. You have to watch it to understand it. Mayor de Blasio, you can skip through it. Now I'm going to tell you something about the Dominion voting machine. I've told you about the Diabolic voting machine, and I'll do a video about it again because it's something I've got to talk about spiritual about this, because it's a spiritual aspect. This is just business. I'm going to put a video below the Dominion voting machine, and it's in Congress just the other week. And you won't find it. You won't find lots of things on YouTube about this. I came across this because I was searching something, and it was one of those moments that I was meant. It was something that I was meant to see in that moment. And I wouldn't have found it if I hadn't been searching for something else. And then as I was going through videos, I saw this and thought, all right, I put it on. It's only, what, 30 seconds long or something. And this congresswoman, or senator, she's got a Dominion boss in front of her. And she's questioning him. She's got this Dominion voting machine guy there under oath giving evidence. And he can't lie. This is it now. All across America, people are being questioned. And people know that they're going to be questioned. And they're having to decide what they're going to do when they have to take the oath. And this Dominion guy, you can see him like that. He's like a rabbit in the headlights. And he's like that. And she asked him straight, how many parts of the Dominion voting machine are made in America? Now this will tell you the sad state of affairs in America. Remember, I did that video a couple of days ago where I told you, I gave you that blog radio show I did, December the 1st, 2007. And I told you the dream that God gave me about the flood. And the flood means two dreams. God gave me these two dreams about flood, which means debt, which means the financial collapse of America, December the 1st, 2007. And God told me the financial collapse of America was near. And I told you that in that dream, God also showed me that the Chinese were going to come out on top because of the financial crash of 2008-9, even though it started in 6-7. But I told you in that dream, and if you go listen to the video, you'll hear me say, God showed me that the Chinese were going to come out on top. Now this congresswoman or senator, she asked this top dog of the Dominion voting machine, how many parts of the Dominion voting machine are made in America? And he said none. She said, how many parts are made in China? And he went, well, the perspex is made in China, you know, the screen. And she made him carry on, because she pressured him. And he basically had to admit that it's basically all made in China. The computer chips, the memory chips, the internal mechanics of it, China, 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 China. And it's owned by Venezuelans. And the server is in Spain. The votes, when the card is read on the scanner, in and out, the computer takes the information and then it sends it through that magic wire of the internet to Spain, to the server. And then there are people there monitoring it in Spain that work for the Venezuelan company that has all Chinese equipment in this voting machine. I'm going to put you the video below. I'm going to put you Giulliani. It's a momentous moment in history. Go watch it. I'm going to put you Mayor de Blasio. That you can skip. You can look at it, skip through it, and you'll get the feel of it very quickly, and just go from bit to bit to bit, see different people. I'm going to put you the video of this Dominion voting machine guy admitting that none of it is made in America.